All right, perfect. So hey, anyways, this is the second Q&A with Dr. A, and I just wanted to tell everyone the topic today is it's diabetic National Diabetic Month. I don't know if you guys realize this, but we are going to talk a little bit about diabetes on both beating it and preventing it. Talking some different tips that you can use in navigating around this whole diabetic situation that we have in this country, and it's a really important topic because as you might know, or maybe you don't, our diabetes statistics are continuing to rise year after year in both our adult and in our non-adult, our children population, especially the teenagers. And so right now, currently in the United States, we have about 35 million people with diabetes. And of those, 1 in 5, or about 20%, don't even know they have diabetes. So they're undiagnosed. And then on top of that, you take another about 80 to 90 million people that also have insulin resistance. So they're at the stage right before diabetes. And so you can say this is a problem. And at some point, they actually have tied obesity and diabetes together, where they were calling it diabesity. And so there's a direct link between obesity and diabetes, obviously, with the way our bodies manage insulin. And so I'm not going to get deep into the science of diabetes and why it causes problems in the body. I think a lot of people understand it's an issue with the way our insulin is working, as along with other hormones in our body. But just the basic concept is in the United States, we're obviously a high consumer of carbohydrates, and our body is supposed to manage carbohydrates in a certain way to turn it into fuel. And so that's what insulin's job is it takes sugar after we eat a meal and breaks that down and opens up these gates in our cells so that sugar can go into the cells for fuel or for energy. The problem is that when we have too much sugar, then we start to get into a position where your body just can't manage it all, and then it turns into fat. So if you have too much carbohydrates, more than your actually body can use for fuel, you're going to start turning it into fat. And if you eat too much carbohydrates and too frequent throughout the day, you end up getting into a spot where your insulin is always high. And when your insulin is always high, you have too much carbohydrates in your diet, you start to get insulin resistance, and you also start to get changes in other hormones in your body. But most importantly, you start having the inability of your cells to pull the sugar in as much as it should, leaving too much sugar into the blood. And too much sugar in the blood starts to cause damage to specific tissues. And so it's really important that if you have diabetes, you're trying to prevent diabetes, you will be able to understand that it really comes down to numbers, and that's why you get blood work. It doesn't matter what you're doing. I know a lot of people out there that have diabetes are worried about being on insulin. They have some issues with insulin, but it all comes down to blood sugar control. So if you have diabetes and your sugars aren't really controlled, you should consider insulin, just because it's all about the number. If your diabetes are under control with insulin, then you're going to have better long-term health. So, but we're more interested in talking today about how, if you have diabetes or you don't have diabetes, what are the best ways for you to prevent it? And that's what's exciting to me, is because there's lots of different things that you can do to prevent diabetes or actually treat it. And if you're in primary care doctor or your endocrinologist, they might not really talk to you much about how you could actually go into remission or get on top of diabetes to where you might not need medicine, because they don't have time, and there's a lot of tools that they might not know of. But you can do this. You can beat diabetes with discipline and understanding some of the things that are important for managing blood sugars. And so, knowing how big of a problem it is, we have to start talking a little bit about lifestyle. And I'm sure you guys can imagine that the biggest opportunity for all of us in beating diabetes or preventing it is lifestyle. And the number one thing is going to be diet. And so let's just talk a little bit about that, and then we'll tie in the rest of the lifestyle. But the lifestyle, again, is sleep, diet, and exercise. And so, if you're someone that is in great health, and you're just trying to stay in great health, this is still a good conversation. If you're someone that already has diabetes, then this is obviously very important. But what our number one way that I like to combat diabetes as far as diet goes is using intermittent fasting. And it's not the only dietary strategy that you would want to use. for blood sugar control, but it's a really effective one. And in my mind, and from experience of using pretty much every different eating strategy you can try, intermittent fasting is one that takes a little bit of time to get the process down or the program down, but once you have it down, it becomes extremely easy. It's a very powerful appetite suppressant, and it works very good on managing blood sugars. And so if you guys don't know a lot about intermittent fasting, I'm just going to kind of give you a little bit of information on it, and then you can find more information on our website. But what it is there's, our body uses two different fuel sources, and one is sugar and one is ketones. And so you probably have heard people talk about ketosis. This science isn't new. Dr. Atkins was the first one that came out with a ketosis-based diet. The problem with Atkins' diet was that it was using continual ketosis and not intermittent fasting. And what that means is the two ways to get into ketosis is almost eating no carbs or under like 40 or 50 grams of carbs continuously, or doing some sort of fasting. Both of these can get you into ketosis. Obviously, continual ketosis is a lot harder because you're really cutting out all your carbohydrates, which just isn't sustainable because we need carbohydrates. Intermittent fasting allows you to get all of your macronutrients, your fats, proteins, and carbohydrates, but you're getting them in a different way by just timing the way your meals and timing when you're going to eat carbohydrates. So that's intermittent fasting. It's basically timing your meals throughout the day in a fed state, and then going on a fasting period, which is going to allow you to switch over from sugar burning into using ketones as fuel, which you're going to get from fat. And so the common window periods for fasting and intermittent fasting is a 16-hour fast with an 8-hour fed window. So you fast for 16 hours and you use your sleep during that time, and then you move into a feeding window of 8 hours. Typically, that's going to be 8 p.m. at night. You fast through till the next day at noon, and then you start your eating, and you do all of your eating in that 8-hour window. And that means fluids as well. The only thing you can have after 8 o'clock is water. And then we do have a little neat way of getting breakfast in that doesn't break your fast, and that's where some people might have heard the term bullet coffee. That's from the Bulletproof Diet that David Asprey wrote, which was a continual ketosis program, but yet very effective for fat loss. So in the mornings, people drink these bullet coffees, which is just coffee or tea with heavy cream or coconut oil, not half and half, not cremate, not some of these, even some of these MCT oils that have protein or carbs in it. It has to be heavy cream because it has just fat, no protein, no carbs. So this gives you a nice little breakfast, if I might say, but it's a different type of breakfast, obviously, because it's a liquid. But the fats in the coffee and the little bit of caffeine can actually really keep your appetite suppressed, and also give you the energy to get you through till noon when you're going to start looking at and starting your eating period. But there's two goods and bads about this. The good is that it's very efficient for not only fat burning, so weight loss. It's very good for managing blood sugars, and it also works very importantly on certain hormones in our body and the protein in our brain called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. The bad part about it for some people is it takes a little bit of time to get into this system and get it actually right for your body, and that's called fat adaptation. And so we don't really call intermittent fasting a diet, we call it an eating strategy, because you don't have to get on the scale, because we're really not looking for immediate weight loss, although for some people weight loss can come off very quickly. We are looking for getting the body to shift, or having this metabolic switch to convert from burning sugar to burning fat in most of the instances of the day, and then using our carbohydrates in specific periods of time to then refill our carbohydrate storing in our bodies, that's mostly in our liver and skeletal muscle, so that we can use that storage for keeping our muscle mass on and not eating our muscles. And so you can see, it's a very powerful tool. You just have to be patient. But when you get to that point where your body is adapted and you're becoming a fat burner, it just becomes easier and easier and easier. And so, this is a very easy program if you just set your mind to doing it. And the benefits aren't just losing weight. People are happier, people have more energy, they sleep better, their joints hurt less because it's an anti-inflammatory eating program. Obviously, if you're diabetes, the blood sugars are going to get better. And if you don't have diabetes, you're preventing diabetes. And I like this program because you really, once you start to understand it, you can really start to manage your body very well just by making little tweaks in your fasting periods and how you're taking in your carbohydrates. Now, if you're a diabetic and you're doing intermittent fasting, you have to, whether you're type 1 or type 2, you have to consider blood sugar management. So this is when you would want to start testing your blood sugar more often, because without a doubt, with weight loss and intermittent fasting, and the changes that are going on internally with your blood sugars and other hormones like cortisol and testosterone and growth hormone, and other hormones in the liver, glucagon and gluconeogenesis, that causes the shifts in how we manage our sugars when we eat them. All these changes are going to start changing your blood sugar levels throughout the day. So if you're a diabetic, this is where, especially type 1, you really have to watch your sugars and the drugs that you're taking to reduce your blood sugars. So you're going to have to make shifts, and you have to also be prepared. I usually tell people to bring an apple or a little roll of glucose tablets, just in case your blood sugars start dropping down a little bit. But you can still do this. It's still a really good program, especially for type 2 diabetics, because you actually can get your diabetes into remission by doing something like this. And you have great data that you can watch by getting blood tests done or checking your fasting blood sugar in the morning, and then even doing a post-prandial or after meal blood sugar, just to see how your numbers are shifting. So yes, you can still do this if you're diabetic, but it's also an amazing opportunity for people that aren't diabetics. So that's a good eating program. And if you're not going to do intermittent fasting, it's really just figuring out how to manage your carbs. So the other part of intermittent fasting that everyone loves is the energy part of it. So kind of going over the benefits again, you have improved insulin sensitivity, you have increased brain-derived neurotropic factor, you have reduced inflammation, improved blood sugars, you're obviously going to lose weight, and it's also going to increase nicotinic adenine dinucleotide, which is NAD, which is the mitochondrial powerhouse's release of NAD for energy in our body. So the other part of lifestyle that I want to talk to is the sleep and the exercise as well. And so diet is definitely number one, but then right after that, to complete the lifestyle and get the most out of your diet strategy, is going to be sleep and exercise. And sleep, people don't really talk too much about the importance of sleep and overall wellness, and how it ties to diabetes, or at least your insulin levels. Well, a hormone cortisol is one that is what basically puts us to sleep. You have cortisol and melatonin. Melatonin goes up, cortisol goes down at night, and then cortisol spikes in the morning to get us ready for a day. It goes to the liver, it causes the liver to start breaking down our sugars, our glycogen stores, which is our storage form of glucose, and starts getting energy ready for the day. But if you don't turn that system on, you can actually burn ketones. So that is kind of the whole part of why we're doing this whole thing, is that you can get into ketosis. And so sleep is a very important part of this. Is it triggers key hormones that increase our metabolic drive, including our androgens like testosterone and DHEA, and also how it manages our cortisol. So the more deep sleep and the more REM sleep that you get, this is when these key hormones are released, which increase our metabolic drive, and then also that will also help us in burning fat. Another hormone is growth hormone as well, which works, kind of opposite of insulin. So sleep is very important. So I talk about sleep hygiene. If anyone's struggling with sleep, which a large percentage of our population has sleeping issues, just start with good sleep hygiene, and that's just going to bed, trying to have that sleep cycle that is between 6 and 8 hours, depending on the person. You always target 8, but some people don't get 8. And I always tell people to start building their sleep cycle for what time they're getting up in the morning. If you're getting up in the morning at between 6 and 8, then you backtrack that 8 hours back from there. Sometimes people are trying to go to bed too early, trying to get extra sleep, and all they're doing is creating the insomnia because they're trying to go to bed earlier than their body wants them to. And so if, for instance, a very common, the best, I should say, sleep cycle is going to bed between 10 and midnight and getting up between 6 and 8 if your work allows for it. And so also on top of that is blue light blockers. You don't want to watch TV, you don't want to read books in bed, you do that out in the other room because all these things can stimulate you. Even hot showers can stimulate people. So it's really figuring out and playing around with different things to just try to maximize your ability to get deep stages of sleep. There are supplements out there: magnesium, taurine, theanine, magnolia bark. There's teas that have these types of ingredients: valerian root, GABA. These are all good things that you can take at nighttime to help promote deeper stages of sleep. And lastly is exercise. Exercise is what gets our body burning calories, burning fat. It produces natural hormones. It stimulates our body to make hormones that are important for our whole metabolism. And it is, after the age of 50, the number one way to improve that protein in the brain that I talk about it all the time, is brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is BDNF. That is the best way to increase BDNF after the age of 50. So, and if anyone has any questions, please just type them in. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I keep talking because I like talking about this, and I know I can skip over things that people might have wanted to hear. So just let me know if you have a question. But again, so when we talk about different strategies for exercise, there's one particular I like because it is so efficient and it has science behind it. So when we're exercising, there's one specific type of exercise called high intensity interval training. And why I like it is because it is getting your aerobic and anaerobic, so it's your resistance training and your cardiovascular exercise, putting it into one, and you get it done in smaller amounts of time, somewhere between 10 and 40 minutes. And so this makes it very easy for even people that have really busy schedules to get exercise in, and you only need it 3 to 4 times a week to actually be beneficial. And they found that doing interval training, you actually can burn calories even after you're done with your exercise, and it helps with heart rate variability a little bit easier than just doing resistance training alone. And the way the muscles are contracting, it's better than just doing aerobic exercise by itself. So high intensity interval training could be using your own body weight, such as pull-ups and push-ups and such, or you could actually do air squats, walking lunges, things like that, and then you tie that in with some aerobic activity, whether it's a small sprint, jump ropes, jumping jacks, using a rower, elliptical, and you just do cycles. And so there are a lot of programs on the internet you can find that fit into those interval training cycles, or you can do some sort of boot camp, which is really good as well. And you got to realize, again, this is 10 minutes to 40 minutes, 3 days to 4 days a week. Everybody can get that, make that happen, and you can do a lot of this in the comfort of your own home. So again, sleep, diet, and exercise are the key. Now, a lot of the different things and therapies that we have at Telewellness are therapies that can be hugely beneficial to improving or increasing the speed of getting results. But all the products that we have all complement a healthy lifestyle. We all want to look and feel the best we can. And so all these different products, whether it be growth hormone stimulators or nutrient injections, or just some of our oral supplements, these are all just to help the lifestyle. The sleep, diet, and exercise, it's our jobs to get those in place and be disciplined enough to organize them well and keep working at them. And don't get frustrated. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And that's why I love intermittent fasting. You don't need to look at a scale. The science works. Our bodies don't defy physics or physiology. I mean, it might take your body a while to get adapted to these strategies, but in time, your body will get there. And if you're really struggling with results, even if you're doing everything right, then remember, you got sleep, diet, exercise, and if those 3 things are all in place over a certain amount of time and you're still not getting any results, then you may have to go talk about getting a hormone panel done or looking and seeing if there might be some micronutrient deficiencies. So that's kind of the nucleus of managing or beating diabetes. But on the supplement side, I just wanted to touch base on a couple things. When people are navigating dieting and eating for diabetes, you just have to remember, again, it's all about getting a balance of all those macronutrients, your protein, fats, and carbohydrates. And so when you look and you look back at the food pyramids back in the 70s and 80s, they've drastically changed these models But as you know, they've changed these models, but yet we're getting overweight faster than we ever have been. And so don't get duped into feeling that being overweight is okay. That is a problem right now. And what I mean by that is about 5 years ago, maybe a little bit over that, they actually made obesity as a disease. They termed it, there's a diagnosis code, not that that means anything, but obesity is a disease. And so when you look around and you see what's happening in our society right now, you even look and you go to Target and you go to some of these big stores, and they have overweight mannequins. That is exactly what we are seeing as a society, is that it is now becoming a very difficult situation for doctors to try to get patients to understand why losing weight and getting to ideal body fat is important, when you have society kind of saying it's okay to be sick by having overweight mannequins and telling people through social media platforms to say it's okay to be happy in your skin, or feel good about yourselves, everybody. But that's not the message that we should be sending out to the population, because obesity is a disease. Obesity is tied to the top 5 cancers. Obesity is tied to heart disease, lung disease, bowel disease, obviously diabetes. And so we really have to think that we do not want to settle with being overweight. What you want is moderation, and you want to manage and control your lifestyle so that you do not have these issues with weight, and then of course you're preventing disease in the future. So so getting onto looking into supplements and things that you can do, and how to eat, and it takes a little bit of time, but it's worth the work, because as I've always said in wellness, it's all front loaded. You have to put the resources, invest the time, and invest the money into getting into that spot where everything is then becoming routine or behaviorals, which is a lifestyle. And so it gets cheaper, and I like this one saying that people always say wellness is expensive. Well, the whole statement is well, if wellness is expensive, try illness. Nobody understands the expense of illness until you're sick and you realize that the costs start start building, and usually when people get sick, they get sicker over time, and the costs continue to increase. And no one puts a price on wellness and not being sick and having energy. So just really, you just have to think and start taking control of yourself, because just knowing what's going on in society and just knowing what's going on in traditional healthcare is they're really not pushing the importance of a healthy body weight. And so this is just a great time. We'll use National Diabetes Month to kind of put this in front of everyone. But just take this time to look at your lifestyle and see how you can make little changes. And over time, you'll just keep making gains, and you will get yourself to that position where you want to be. Supplements that are out there that are healthy and good for blood sugars. First off is, when you hear all this about eating healthy fruits and vegetables, none of us get in the amounts of fruits and vegetables that we should in a day. And it's really hard to even figure out or take the time to understand how much fruit you can actually eat without actually becoming a problem if you're not burning enough of your sugars. So I always tell people to look at getting either reds or greens mixes. They basically take the phytonutrients out of these skins of these vegetables and fruits without the sugar. And so you can just add these into your shakes, and you get all these phytonutrients without the extra calories and carbohydrates. Another one is fiber. You can get a good one. It's called Bellway on Amazon. There's plenty. There's a Whole Foods 365 brand, but it's basically psyllium husk. And what that does is it's a carbohydrate that doesn't spike your insulin. So you can eat it, and actually controls your appetite and slows down your transit time in your colon, and actually helps stabilize blood sugars, keeps you full, and actually slows down that transit time of your stool, so you can actually absorb more of your micronutrients. So that's an easy one. There's a lot of research on how fiber can help with weight loss and blood sugar control, and it also works on appetite. We have a couple products. I wrote a weight eating strategy program called the Carb Revolution. That's one that if for people that need structure and want the supplements, and like I said, it's a lot front loaded for people when they're trying to get control of their body weight. This is a nice kit. It really uses an intermittent fasting background or framework, along with some supplements that are going to help with the brain, sleep, and burning fat. And if you don't need structure, I still suggest looking at the Super Burn. Super Burn has a lot of good ingredients for fat burning. It also has beta hydroxybutyrate, which is a ketone. So you can actually take that in the morning in your fasting state to help with fat burning and kind of support, burning fat more. Other things, liver health, alpha lipoic acid, milk thistle. And some of the other very kind of popular therapies that we have at Telewellness are also the peptides. And so there's a lot of peptides that are really good for, again, at the beginning for managing health. There's BPC 157, which is body protection compound. That actually tends to improve liver function, which liver is whereas we store a lot of our carbohydrates, and it's also responsible for how we distribute our blood sugars in and out of the body, or in and out of the blood. If you haven't looked at some of the growth hormone peptides, there's several of them, but one of them is called sermorelin. And what this does is growth hormone actually reduces inflammation, improves our insulin sensitivity, and can actually help with our circadian rhythm, our sleep cycle, helps with bone density, helps with burning fat. And so it's another one that just can really be a nice adjuvant to healthy eating and good exercise and sleep. So that is a lot of information, but I just wanted to get a lot of this out there, because if you took anything from today, would be if you're trying to beat or prevent diabetes, is just considering an intermittent fasting strategy. It works really well. It's not a diet. This is a way of living. I've been doing intermittent fasting for about 8 years, and I can't tell you how great it is for me as a 51-year-old that's trying to look and feel the best I can. This takes the eating completely out of my worries. My body hasn't changed in these 8 years. I continue to maintain the same amount of muscle and body fat, and my hormones are nice and stable. So this is kind of what I centered my whole lifestyle around, is this intermittent fasting, and then timing my exercise to my carb management. And so, I've been on peptides for pretty much the last 15 years. I use those as well, just because of all the different benefits that you can get from increasing your natural production of growth hormone. And then, and if you guys haven't tried it, the Carb Rev or the Super Burn, those are great products. Those are what I make them for myself, and so they're another good concept, at least for you to get started with the intermittent fasting. I just want to, if there's anyone out there, we're going to do a little contest. I had made a statement earlier, and I just wanted to see who's the first person to answer this. But what is the number one lifestyle component to help beat diabetes? If anyone knows it, be the first person to write it down, and we'll send you a free bottle of Super Burn. So just type it in, and we will get that sent out to you. Otherwise, I know everybody probably knows tomorrow's Veterans Day. I just wanted to thank you to any of the veterans that might be listening. We are huge. We really take our veterans seriously. We always have discounts for our veterans, and we really appreciate your service. Even first responders as well. I throw them in there also, but we want to thank you for your service, and please, that we are a veteran supporting company, and we always want to take care of you guys. So please always ask for a veterans discount if you guys are calling in, because we do take that serious. And so if you guys have any questions for next Wednesday, please send them to us. I would love to talk about any of the subjects that you guys want to hear about. Again, we're just getting started with this concept, and we're hoping that we can get a nice community that are all looking to look and feel the best they can, and understand how our company works to serve you guys the best products we can, and the best information. So thank you again, and we'll see you next week.